Sometimes, bro, I feel like I got like bipolar or some shit. Like BPD. I don't know. I don't like none of these like diseases. Like, what are they called? You know, like, not mental health. What are they called, bro? Like, I don't know, mental disorders. You know, like ADHD and autism, fucking BPD and shit. I feel like they're all just like labels, unnecessary labels for like, I don't know. Like, ADHD, bro, I genuinely, this is not science-based at fucking all. So, don't take my word for it, but ADHD, I feel like it's just like, you're not born different. Like, your parents just like, when you were misbehaving and shit when you were younger, they just gave you like a fucking iPad or like, you know, something to distract you with rather than like, you know, making you fix your own boredom or like, you know, letting you sit in your anger and your emotions and shit. But back to the BPD thing, like, I feel like sometimes I'm just like going crazy. You know, like I have multiple personalities and shit. And why I mentioned the whole ADHD thing is because that's normal. You know what I mean? As much as everybody around you will say, you know, go get that checked. You know, you need to go to the doctor if you feel like you got multiple personalities. If you got ADHD, you need to be medicated. If you're on autism, you need to fucking do this and do that. Part of life, bro. Some people are more socially awkward. Some people got more energy. Some people can't focus. Some people can't concentrate. Some people flip back and forth between their emotions, I guess, irregularly. That don't mean that you need some sort of medication to fix it. I see that as like a little bit of a superpower. I think inherently all those things include some sort of positive, some sort of superpower. With bipolar and your emotions changing drastically, the intensity of your feelings is fucking incredibly motivating, man. Incredibly motivating. And your emotions, in my opinion, are the most valuable thing that you have. You know, your emotional intelligence is the most valuable thing that you have. I think that's the more important than intelligence. You know what I mean? I would rather be emotional and sensitive and understand all my emotions than have an IQ of fucking 278. Well, you know, you get the point. Because your emotions is how you perceive and interact with the world, and how you interact and perceive with right now. You know, the emotions that you have towards what's standing right in front of you and the problems that you face, or the good things that you face at that point in time. Your reactions and how you perceive your emotional reactions to those said circumstances is going to determine who you are. It's going to determine what emotions you listen to and what emotions you don't listen to. You can definitely change your brain chemistry based on what you say to yourself and what you think about the reactions that you have, your perception of the emotions that you feel when you're under a certain circumstance. You know, like, for example, just seeing the positive in what most would assume would be a negative situation, a negative circumstance. It's a superpower to be able to do that. You're gonna feel like you're crazy. You're gonna feel insane. You're gonna feel like you're the only person that it's happening to. You're gonna feel like you have no control over your emotions. It's not the case. Feeling emotions constantly does not mean that you don't have control over them. Someone who doesn't have control over them is someone who fucking, you know, is angry and then goes and stabs his kids. That's someone who has no... Okay, that's very fucking exaggerated situation. You get what I'm saying? Like, feeling emotions a lot, bro, like crying is dope. Crying is good for you. That doesn't mean you have no control over your emotions. That means you're comfortable feeling and expressing your emotions. But you kind of need to be assumed to be crazy. You know, if the outside world thinks that you're crazy, you're doing something right. Because it's going to seem crazy. It's going to seem delusional. You know, it's going to seem like you have delusions of grandeur when you can feel so passionately and so emotionally driven by something that is not within your reach yet. People are going to look at you like you're mad, like you're insane. Good. Be insane. Be mad. Be crazy. Be the odd one out. Be different. Be the one that everyone thinks is insane, because then the life that you live compared to the life that they live will be insane. The comparison and the difference will be insane. You know, you gotta fight through the self-doubt, fight through your peers doubting you, fight through the ups, fight through the downs, because fighting through the ups is equally just as hard as fighting through the downs. Because when you have good moments, that high that you feel, that euphoric feeling of I'm fucking great, it brings you away from your center. You know, your state of being, your state of mind that is present and is thinking what needs to be done. You know, because when you're doing good, you're like, fuck yeah, I'm the man. I don't need to do shit because I'm him, that and the other. And then you start slipping. You know, you start thinking you don't need to dot your I's and cross your T's because you're him. There's a concept that I heard about in a podcast called Absolute Zero. I don't even think it's a concept. I think it's like an actual like thing. I don't fucking know. But this lady, she talks about absolute value, and how your most present state of being is at a zero. This is your center. This is where you're at peace, where you're grounded. And then if something bad happens to you, like a family member dies, it's like a -6. You come -6 away from zero. And if you you win a sports championship, or you fucking make a lot of money, you get like a +6. You get a +6, but you're still 6 away from zero. Both situations is a distance of 6 away from zero. And grounding yourself and bringing yourself back to zero is where the longer you can keep yourself at zero, the greater, I guess, perseverance, resilience you're gonna have. When you can keep yourself in a certain state of mind, it's fantastic. What I mean with the emotions and things, and how you're gonna be jumping all over the place from 1 to 5 to -3 to fucking whatever. I'm not saying limit that. I'm not saying stop yourself from feeling that. I'm saying feel those things and be aware of those things and be aware that you're in those moments, because those moments are life. You know, they're beautiful. You know, feeling emotions towards those things is fantastic. But then understand and gauge within yourself how far you are from zero. Have the presence of mind to be like, this is a great time. I just made fucking 10K this month. Celebrate, do whatever you do, and then do what brings you back down to zero. You know, for me, it's like systems. When I can follow a routine, that brings me back down to zero. When I can be by myself, be out in nature, go for a hike, that brings me back down to zero. Bring yourself back to zero. Bring yourself to a state of being. Bring yourself to your alter ego. I say your alter ego, but realistically it's probably like your inner ego, and then everything else is your alter ego. But you need to have an alter ego. You know, my alter ego, I call it Slim. My nickname growing up was always Slim. I always think like, what would Slim do? You know, what would the best version of myself, not the best version of yourself. When you think of the best version of yourself, I know when I think of the best version of myself, I think in like 5-10 years time, when I got everything I want, when I'm at my happiest, when I got kids, all that shit. You're the best version of yourself that you're capable of doing right now. You know, the focused version of you, I guess. The most focused version of you. And you've got to personify it. You've got to personify these different thoughts and feelings and thoughts and feelings. When you personify your self-doubt, you know, if I'm saying to myself, I'm not good enough, I'm this, I'm that, and the other, I would say, like, thank you for that self-doubt. I would give that self-doubt a personality. Be like, you know what, thank you, but realistically, you're wrong, so shut the fuck up. You know what I mean? It makes it a lot easier. Same with like, with Slim. You know, whenever I have a coin, I've started flipping it every time I don't know what to do. Not on major things, you know, but whenever I'm like at an impasse. Like I had a dream about this girl. And I was gonna text her, and I wasn't sure. I was going to, but I wasn't going to. So I flipped the coin. The coin said no, so I didn't. Then same thing, I was scrolling through my Instagram, I was going through my followers list. Saw her name. I was unfollowing a bunch of people. I was like, should I follow her? Should I unfollow her? I flipped the coin, said unfollow, I followed her. Minimize small tasks. Minimize things that, I guess, distract you from zero, distract you from being Slim. You know, like, the things like that I just mentioned, especially with like girls, is a big one. Minimize the thought process that goes into that. That'll help you with girls too, you know. Minimize how much thought you put into it, because realistically, it's when you compare it to your dreams, when you compare it to what you need to be doing, it's inconsequential. It doesn't matter. It's not deep. You know what I mean? Don't ignore it, you know, because I think there's an importance to life with when you go through it with somebody, and like, you know, unless you're gay, which is, there's nothing wrong with it, but unless you're gay, you need to be able to talk to women if you want to go through life with somebody. But your dreams are more important. Focus on that first, and then the right one will come after that. You know, I feel like it's so, I used to have this thought of like, oh, this woman will only love me when I've got fucking money, when I've got everything I wanted. That's not the case. It's not that she'll only love you when you have that. She'll notice you when you have that, or women will notice you when you have that. And then you get to pick which one you fall in love with, rather than chasing. Fucking, I want to fall in love with you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you, until you say no. So then I'm going to go to that one. But now you say no, so I'm going to go to that one. Endless cycle of wasted energy. Okay, use that energy to bring yourself back down to zero. Be present, be your alter ego, be ego, be Slim. Be Slim with it. Oh. Anyway, that's my thing for the day. I love you. Have a good day.